This is Talk to Seattle, and I'm your host, Jason Rigden. On this episode, we have Jay Fathi, who is running for Seattle City Council in the 6th District. How are you today?
I'm great, Jason. Thanks for asking. How are you?
I'm great. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself, maybe your background and experience?
Well, I moved to Seattle when I was 3 years old, and I've lived here continuously, nonstop since, which will be 50 years this summer. I grew up in Northeast Seattle, living with my single mother. Went to public schools and went to Roosevelt High School. Went to the University of Washington, got a history degree, and was fortunate enough to get into medical school at the University of Washington. Became a family physician, did my residency at Swedish, and then after that, I got a job at the 45th Street Community Health Center. It's a community clinic in Wallingford. Worked there for 12 years. Community clinics are clinics that are set up as part of the safety net. So generally, the types of folks that go there either have no insurance or have Medicaid, which is health insurance for the extremely low income. After that, I had the opportunity to start a program at Swedish Health Services. It was a program for primary care and community health. I was a senior medical director. We did a lot of innovative things. We revamped our entire health plan for all 16,000 people that were in the health plan. Did a lot of stuff with school-based health centers, and I was a medical director at the Ballard Teen Health Center, Ballard High School. We did a lot of innovative things and programs for low-income folks. We opened a specialty clinic and added dental services and revamped it and made it a much better place for low-income folks, and did a lot of really great things. After that, most recently I had the honor of serving as the CEO of an Obamacare health plan. So across Washington State, as many people know, once the Affordable Care Act was fully embraced, thank goodness, by our great state, around 800,000 people got health insurance that didn't have it before. So I was able to lead one of those health plans. We started with 34,000 people in it. By the time I left, we had 250,000 people in our health plan. So it was tremendous, and learned a lot about big systems and how to get things done and working with government, because that was the job where we worked with a contract with the Washington State Healthcare Authority. I've lived in the District 6, Ballard neighborhood, Finney Ridge, Fremont, for 21 years. I'm married to a wonderful woman, Joelle, who's a nurse practitioner and a professor at the University of Washington School of Nursing. We have two wonderful sons who are 16 and 14. They've gone to public schools their whole lives. One's at Ballard High School, the other one's at Hamilton Middle School. And that's my story. I'm kind of, as people say, you're quite a Seattle guy.
So what made you decide to run for this office in particular?
Well, I'll tell you, I think, Seattle City Council has got a lot of attention the last few years. And it's just time. I think most people would agree. It's time for a reboot. It's time for a fresh start, new energy, new ideas. There's some things that have to do with the dynamic of the council. You hear people saying it's toxic, it's dysfunctional. We just need a fresh start. So given the fact that 4 of the incumbents out of the 7 district seats that are up for re-election this year are not running, we're going to have a new council. We're going to have a largely new council, and I think that it just feels right. I've lived here my whole life. I've been very, very civilly involved. I've been heavily involved in the community through education, through healthcare, through many, many other things. I've vetted it and talked to a lot of people, and pretty much everybody I talked to, people who I've known and trusted for years, people on the council, people that used to be on the council, elected leaders across the state, said, yeah, we need people like you, and you do a good job. And I believe that, and that's why I'm doing it.
And could you tell me a little bit about your district?
So the 6th district in Seattle is Green Lake, areas around Green Lake, and then moving west from Aurora or Highway 99 all the way out to the water, kind of north of the Fremont Bridge and the Ballard Bridge, and up to around Carkeek Park. A lot of different neighborhoods in there, Crown Hill, West Woodland, Finney Ridge, Greenwood. Ballard's kind of the one that has the recognition. There's a very rich tradition. Ballard used to be its own city a little over 100 years ago, and then I believe it was annexed by Seattle. Very strong its own cultural identity in that area. We have, the locks. We have Golden Gardens, right up to the beautiful Puget Sound there. Shilshole Marina. We have the zoo, and just a lot of recreation, a lot of families, diversity, and the area is changing, as is all of Seattle. And we're getting growth, as is all of Seattle. We're experiencing growing pains, and But, I think we all share progressive values, and we all want the best for our kids through our schools, and we want to build healthy communities.
And what do you think are the biggest challenges facing your district?
Well, I'll tell you, it's been a lot of fun as a candidate. It's been a privilege. It's been wonderful to spend most of my time going around meeting people, mostly in District 6, but also throughout the entire city, who are smart and who are passionate and who are interested and caring and engaged. And I'm like a kid in a candy store, learning all these wonderful things. I look at the next 7-8 months as an orientation to doing the job of a Seattle City Council member. What I hear largely about in the district, almost to a T, people are have very strong opinions about the homeless problem. There's always been homelessness. I can tell you, certainly in this city for 50 years, there's been homeless issues. Obviously, it's much more visible, and it's getting worse. Now, that's tied into a lot of other issues regarding affordability of housing, growth, the middle class being shrinked out, growing wage gap. There's a lot of different factors that are factor into homelessness. Very complex, including mental health and addiction issues. But that is probably the issue that I hear about the most.
And what do you think are the biggest issues facing the city as a whole?
I think it's that also. And you just kind of can put it all. These are some of these problems that Seattle has. Every city has issues. Seattle is the most educated city in the United States. That statistic just came out. We are I think we're the 9th wealthiest metropolitan area in the United States. We're growing rapidly. Along with that, for example, we have the 6th worst traffic in the United States. So these are problems that you'd rather have those problems than a city that's in decline or in decay. And I won't mention any, but unfortunately, there are some cities in that situation. Those city councils and those leadership teams of those cities have different problems. I'll take these problems anytime. I want my city to grow. I want my city to be prosperous. I want it to be healthy. I want it to be a place where people want to come and live. We have to manage that growth. We need to do a better job. And I think the next 10 years are very, very critical as to how we're going to manage that growth and manage these issues. Homelessness is a symptom of a lot of things we talked about, this massive growth, people wanting to come here. Again, the wage gap and those sorts of issues, affordable housing. Transportation is also an issue, kind of, I wouldn't say tier 2, and it's up there. So we're going to have to work together across the entire city. You can't just do it district by district. We're going to have to partner, and these problems permeate the entire city. We're going to have to work together and be very, very creative to help make improvements on these towards solutions on these problems.
How can the city help homeless folks?
Well, it's a very, very simple-sounding question. I think we all know, and you probably know yourself, there's absolutely no simple answer. And there is no one answer, and there is no magic bullet, no question. The path to someone becoming homeless is so long and so complex. I spent the majority of my career, and I do still see patients. I'm a board-certified family physician. I still see low-income patients. I still see some homeless patients. I'm teaching residents through the University of Washington programs. I took care of people that lived literally under bridges, that were HIV positive, had hepatitis C, bipolar, history of incarceration, and every other chronic medical disease you can think of. I took care of homeless kids who were in maybe foster care, who had come into our clinics homeless and pregnant. So these are problems that I have a little bit better understanding probably than the average candidate. The path to becoming homeless is usually so long and so complex, involving adverse childhood experiences, possibly childhood trauma, adult trauma, addiction, mental health issues, and problems that are either suboptimally diagnosed or treated, inadequate access to health care, job loss, family dysfunction, poverty. Those are pretty complex, heavy things. There is not one thing that we're going to be able to say as a city and say, oh, we just need to do this one thing and snap our fingers and it's going to get better. That is not going to happen, and no one should think that. The path to someone becoming homeless usually is so long. Similarly, across the city, the path to making things better and actually making some headway on this is going to be similarly long. We need to address better healthcare coverage. We need to address better options for people that are near the end of that path where they're homeless and they're addicted. We need to talk about addressing addiction and mental health issues. There's inadequate access and treatment options for folks like that. We need to have more housing for people that are chronically mentally ill. And we need to keep working on all the problems that the city council is currently trying to work on. For example, affordability. So pretty complex things, no good quick soundbite answers, unfortunately. But last thing I'll say on that is it's not just the city's responsibility. It's the entire community's responsibility. It's going to take veterans groups and faith-based groups and neighborhood groups. And I've talked to people in my district, and people are excited about that. People say, we need to have a spirit of we're working together with the city. The city is not they. The city is us. And we work together towards making some headway on some of these problems.
Another big issue is transportation. What can the city do to help improve our transportation system?
Well, I'll tell you, our city is already doing a lot. We have a long way to go. But I think, if people pay any attention to kind of, American history over the last century, our transportation system and infrastructure across the country has basically been designed for cars, not people. And Seattle needs to continue to be a leader to change that because we need to get people out of their cars. I don't know if anybody spends much time trying to drive into or around downtown on weekdays around rush hour. It's terrible. There's only so much land. There's more jobs. There's more people. We have to continue to do what we're doing to get people out of their cars. We have light rail, which is on the move across the region, which is excellent, and it's great, and it's going to come to my district. We're going to be expanding the light rail out into Ballard moving forward. We need to have more bus opportunities and bus lines, and people need to be embracing that more. Cycling needs to continue to be made safer, so people that choose to cycle can do that, which is very green and healthy, both personally and for our environment way to commute. We got to keep our foot on the pedal, and pardon the pun there. And we need to really keep pushing towards getting people to use mass transit and use alternate means of cars to get to and from work.
And what can the city do to help improve housing affordability?
Well, that's another pretty complicated question. And I think, again, some people know the city's already done a lot, passed ordinances and to try to mandate, work with developers to create more low-income housing and affordable housing for people that are not high income. And we need to continue to do things like that. We need to keep, in a balanced way, working on density in Seattle because this is a tremendous place that it's not going to be static. More and more people are going to want to live here. We need to make sure that the zoning is changed so there's affordable places for people to live. And it's still a wonderful place to live. Yet at the same time, those things are balanced with the input of people from the individual neighborhoods.
We live in very polarized times. How would you as a city leader work to bring people together? Well,
I'll tell you what, you said it. It is a very polarized time, and it's worse because of what's coming out of the other Washington, D.C. And I think I said it early on when we were chatting here. We just need a reboot. We need to push refresh on the city council. We need some new energy in there. My entire career has been based on working with people from different backgrounds and different groups and bringing them together towards the common good. And I'll tell you, I'm confident that as a leader on the council, we're going to be able to have a more healthy, collaborative council that's less divisive and can actually move towards listening to our constituents and listening to the people in the city and working all together in a collaborative way to get things done.
And are you accepting the democracy vouchers?
I am, and that's a great thing that Seattle is doing. I'm a proud candidate who's working with the democracy voucher program. As some people may know, to work with the democracy voucher program, you do not take any corporate contributions, and you limit your individual contributions to $250 per individual. And to qualify to get the democracy voucher funds, each candidate needs to gather 150 signatures from Seattle voters and 150 individual donations, and half of those have to come from your district. So I'm happy to announce that I believe I'm the first candidate in the 6th district here in Seattle to qualify for the democracy voucher money to be released to our campaign. And I think it's a wonderful program. We're national leaders in this. Other cities need to look at this. And I will also add that the desired goal of getting the common person who doesn't have super deep pockets to actually politically participate in the process through fundraising, it's working. Because I can guarantee you, I have a lot of friends and neighbors and people across the community who are signing their democracy vouchers over that I'm pretty much certain would not be dipping into their own personal funds to support candidates. So it's working, and it's something that Seattle should be very proud of.
And if people want to learn more about your campaign, where should they go?
Our website is jayforseattle.com, Jayfor Seattle.com.
I'll have that link in the show notes. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
It was great talking to you, Jason. Thank you.
You've been listening to Talk to Seattle, and I've been your host, Jason Rigden. If you want to help support the show, why don't you follow us on social media? We are at Talk to Seattle on both Instagram and Twitter. Thank you for listening.